In the past few days, there's been bitter controversy over the payment of vouchers to replace school meals during half term. The anger that many people feel about this is very understandable. We're talking about hungry children. But with all the sharp disagreements about how to deal with the problem, surely the real disgrace is that the problem exists at all. Britain is one of the richest countries in the world, and yet there are many parents who can't afford to get food for their children. There are people like Marcus Rashford and many shop and restaurant owners and other people who are setting a wonderful example of concern and generosity. And here in the University of South Wales too, our hearts are warmed by the generous response to the food bank appeal, not only in this special fortnight but all the year round. It's heartening to think that there is care and neighbourliness still very much alive in our communities. But as with the school meals issue, so with food banks. In a sense, it's a disgraceful thing that such a charity should be needed at all. That here in Britain, there should be people who can't afford to pay for their own food to feed their families and have to go to a charitable organisation. My parents used to talk about the hungry days of the 1930s before I was born. And I had the good fortune of growing up in that post-war period when things were getting better, and we thought that hunger of that kind in Britain had become a thing of the past, and we never dreamt that one day it would return. Clement Attlee was Prime Minister at that time, and he is quoted as saying, "Charity is a cold, grey, loveless thing. If a rich man wants to help the poor, he should pay his taxes gladly, not dole out money at whim." Charities, of course, are not always cold, grey and loveless. Many of the people who volunteer today are warm-hearted, loving people who treat their clients with great respect. But for those who have to turn to them for help, there can still be a feeling of humiliation. Food banks are doing a great job and a necessary job, and the more we support them, the better. But that doesn't relieve us of the responsibility of trying to get changes in the economic and political situation that will make that job unnecessary. Unfortunately, the relief of poverty by the state brings its own problems. Whereas people used to depend on rich people who were sometimes rather patronising and judgmental, now those struggling with poverty often feel that they are dealing with a faceless bureaucracy that doesn't really care about them and treats them as numbers rather than names. Something even more cold, grey and loveless. One of the best known and favourite passages in the Bible is the Apostle Paul's chapter about love. And in the older versions of the Bible, that word is actually translated charity, but meant in a very different sense from the one in which that it tends to mean today. Paul introduces the chapter by saying, "I will show a still more excellent way." Yes, our Christian faith does point to a bigger and better way. Two of the miracle stories of Jesus are about him feeding thousands of hungry people at once. But the main point is not to say that Jesus was in the business of running a feeding centre. The miracles were meant to be signs, a foretaste of the kingdom of heaven here on earth, a world of plenty for everybody with plenty left over, a glorious feast made possible when people spontaneously and joyfully share. An unrealistic dream, you may say, but what's the point of faith if it doesn't lift our eyes to see that the impossible is possible? And in our giving and our love, it's possible for us to build community and start living a bit of that dream here and now.